Game 7, Toronto, Montreal, tonight. That's Aaron Ward, Shane Kelly. I'm David Pagnotta. Our coverage of the playoffs brought to you by Bitbuy, Canada's #1 cryptocurrency platform. Gentlemen, let's start with the Toronto Maple Leafs. No Jake Muzzin. He's done for the next 3 weeks. Rasmus Sandin coming in. What do the Leafs need to do here, Wardo, to put all the critics to bed?
I think, honestly, there's so many storylines to unravel here. The idea that Sheldon Keefe's going to be sitting into a Game 7 press conference, I think that's one. No one ever thought we'd be at this position. Two is the idea that you're starting to wonder if anybody can geographically locate Mitch Marner in this series. That's not a theme I think anybody thought we'd be unraveling, right? The idea that Matthews has kind of been there and Marner's been non-existent, and where they've gotten their scoring from is secondary. But the biggest one is the idea that at a Game 7, you're looking at the absence of a key player in Muzzin and having to place a guy in who's under a lot of pressure because of some of the, I guess, plays you'd say were not executed very well. That's Sandin. And you got to wonder about his mental state currently, that they've got to hide him. So you wonder if Toronto's going to go over the same route as Montreal, is going down to 4 or 5 defensemen and maybe put a guy in at times, slot him in when is necessarily needed to give other guys breaks. For Montreal, let's be honest, we know what they're doing currently. They're playing with house money. They don't really care, right? They finally figured out Game 5 and 6 that they're not going to beat the Toronto Maple Leafs with possession. They get to the red. They hold as long as they can. They dump it in. That's how Sandin got himself in trouble, and I think that's essentially how they're going to view the entire Toronto Maple Leafs team, is get it low, get the puck back, and be very guarded in your own end and wait for those opportunities, just like overtime's been in every single game for Montreal.
Yeah, the Leafs are stuck between a rock and a hard place, really. I mean, they've been dominating the series based on whatever stats you want to look at, but goaltending, Carey Price has been unbelievable. That, to me, has been the story for the Canadiens. But now the Leafs are down their best defenseman, arguably one of their top 3 forwards, and I just don't know how they can sustain the level of dominance that they've had without those types of players in the lineup.
The mental game, too, I got to tell you, is going to be a tough one, right? So we know what the bastion of Toronto media is like. What it's like to be in that locker room and know how many outlets are sitting there bringing up those 2 words, Game 7, right? You see, are they in their own heads? Clearly the media, the town, the fan base, all talking about it. It's been since 1967. Like, we now unfortunately get to hear about all the historical data of what Toronto hasn't been able to do over time. And even these guys maybe sometimes already been born before this actually was a relevant topic. Now it's creeping into their minds. And pregame meal, you're thinking about, oh, good Lord, can you imagine the summer if this doesn't go our way?
This is the second time in NHL history that the Habs and Leafs are meeting in a Game 7 matchup in the playoffs. Previous one was in 1964. The Leafs won it. But this one certainly a little bit different as the storylines progress. Shane, I got to ask you about the Leafs side of things. Now, they still, as Wardo mentioned, contain the puck. Their possession numbers are still in favor by a large margin over the course of this series. It's diminished a little bit in the last 2 games. And we've seen Montreal get off to that hot start. And Dominic Ducharme earlier today emphasizing that they need to continue to do that. Montreal does. The Leafs understand that. Can they combat that?
I mean, you know, when you look at the numbers, you would say, look, they're controlling the series. And I kind of look at it as like a coin flip. The Leafs have been flipping, a slightly weighted coin in their favor every game this series. They're somewhere between 55 and 60% chance of winning any particular game based on the numbers we had. So there will be times when you would flip that 7 times in a row and it would go against the team with the slight advantage. So, what the numbers say is, look, they're likely to win these games playing the way they have been, but they're not guaranteed. So to me, in a Game 7, with the amount of variance that's there, you just kind of rely on the approach that's gotten you here to this point and hope that you can solve Price, or hope that you get a couple more bounces because you do control the play. I really feel bad for them. I mean, it's a tough spot to be in when you've done so many things right, and here you are tied 3-3 in the series.
I think that's actually a known entity, too. The idea that they brought out Tavares for the pregame skate. I mean, most people might say, yeah, that's insignificant. But the idea that Muzzin's not in there, that you're in a Game 7, you're looking to create some positivity. a symbolic leader coming out and thinking to yourself, well, we progress on. Here he is on skates. There's a possibility he's here for round 2. I think that's the inspiration they're looking to drive from having a guy like this come out for just even a pregame skate. And you can't discount the value in that for the mental state of this team.
All right, gentlemen, we haven't done this yet, but we're going to do it today. Who's winning tonight? Wardo?
I'm gonna go Toronto 4-3 in double OT.
Oh boy. Shane?
Man, the numbers say Toronto. My heart says, do you bet against Carey Price in a Game 7? But because I'm supposed to be the numbers guy, I suppose I'll go 3-1 Leafs.
I'll go opposite on that one in regulation. Late winner, 3-1 final. They'll get the empty netter. Montreal's moving around too. But Toronto should win.
Wait, I got a question. Are you still in Montreal right now?
No, I'm back in Toronto.
Oh, so you're safe. You're not playing it for your
Yes.
safety. Yeah, okay, perfect.
Right. I'm doing all right. Yes.
So you're predicting one of the worst playoff matchups at 5-on-5 we've seen in a long time then.
Pretty
Jets
much.
and Canadians dumping the puck in on each other.
Pretty much. Sit back, wait for Toronto to make the mistakes, and pounce. That's what's worked the last 2 games for the Habs. Again, like you guys, Toronto should win, but because they should, I'll go Montreal's way. That's Aaron Ward, Shane Kelly. Enjoy the game. Oh, we'll have a lot to talk about afterwards.